Okay, so I don't have an intro, so I'm gonna just get right into this. Today I'm gonna be showing you how to put bags on your car into Assetto Corsa. My other video that I made on Assetto Corsa bags, that is an animation that does not physically affect the suspension. So today I'm gonna be showing you the updated way to make bags, which affects the car's physics. So this is the final product that you're gonna be working with. You have two buttons, your extra A and your extra B switches, which are CSP functions. And extra A will lower the car, and extra B will raise the car. You should probably put on the brakes, otherwise the car moves. And you're able to change what height you want, so you can stop at any height, and you can go up and down at will. And the car will actually drive as if it is lower. So if you see, it will drive as if it is lower. See how it changes like that? And if I raise it, it will drive as if it is higher. That's what you're going to be making today. So when you get the car that you want to put your bags on, in my case, I'm doing it on a Kuno's car because everybody should have those. You're going to want to unpack the data, so hit this button down here called Unpack Data, and make sure that you have developer mode on in Content Manager. And since I'm doing a Kuno's car, I'm going to have to copy this folder. And it's important that you unpack the data before you copy the folder over, otherwise the data.acd will get corrupted. Okay, now I have a copy of this, so I'm just going to name it low or something. I'm going to fix the sound, fix that so that it doesn't crash when I open it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to want to delete data.acd, because otherwise any changes that we make to the data folder will not be applied, because they will be overwritten by the data.acd, because the data.acd has priority over the data folder. So we're going to want to delete that. And then what you're going to want to do is open my bags files folder. I will have a link to this in the description. You're going to want to drag and drop the extension folder into the cars folder. Then you're going to want to go into the data folder in the cars folder. Copy and paste the control setup rod 0.ini and the script.lua into this folder. And then you're going to want to open car.ini. Go into the paste into car.ini and data folder. Copy this over and replace the line where it says header with the one in the file. Save. Close that. And then you want to go to setup.ini in the data folder. And then you're going to want to open paste into setup.ini in data. Copy all of this. Look in here if there's a suspension tab. If there's a suspension tab, you're going to want to just copy all of this. You don't need to copy this. Otherwise, just paste this. I'm going to paste it at the bottom. Save that. Close that. And then you should be done. Now notice here in the loading screen where it says extra A, bags down. And then it'll be the button that you bound it to. And then it said extra B is bags up, and then it'll be extra the button that you bound extra B to. If you don't know where that is, go into your settings folder. Settings tab in Content Manager. Go to patch, and then it should say here extra option A, B, and then there's also all these other ones. And make sure you have these bound. And as you can see here, when I press extra A, which for me is number pad 7, the car will go down. And when I press extra B, which is number pad 8 for me, the car goes up. And you can change it to any value you want. On my script, added a little indicator at the top here, so it'll tell you what level the bags are at. It goes from 0 to 1000. Some cars have really long rod lengths, so your car might bottom out before it reaches 1000, as you can see here. So that's it if you just wanted to add bags to your car and you don't care at all about how this works. But now I'll go and break it down how this works so that you can change some settings in it or configure it, or maybe even add multiple maps or whatever you want to do. It's limitless because it's a Lua scripting. So I'm gonna break this down for you now. So first things first is the car.ini, which we changed. As you can see here on the header, this is the version of the physics that affects the car. And so when we changed it to extended 2, that means we now are using the custom shader patches extended physics. which allow us to have controllers on certain values that we can change in the car's setup. So we can change some things. We can do boost controllers. We can do changing rod length. And I don't know all the options, but I'm sure there's a lot. You can probably change a whole bunch of values. So that's the first thing that makes all of this work. If you forget to change this, none of the extended physics will work and it will do nothing. So that's important. Then the next most important thing here is the control setup rod and score 0. So this is the rod length controller. If I open the setup.ini, you can see here under suspension, you have the normal stuff, rod length, you have the minimum and the maximum. You can change these mins and maxes if you want your car to go higher or lower if it's not enough for you. And you can see here at the bottom, you have ext underscore controller, control setup rod 0.ini. This is where you can change. Let's say if you want to have different heights for the rear, you can make another one, call it control underscore 1. Then you can change this. So if you want it to not go as high, you can change that to 500. I'll go over this in a second, but that's what you can do if you want to change that. So this is the part that CSP accesses to make sure that you can like change your rod length. This is it. You're defining the controller. So if you go to the controller here, this is the beans here. You'll notice here input underscore script 0. That is our Lewis script. In custom shaders patch, you can see here in the car physics script, if you go to the wiki, I shall have a link to that. It's a whole big deal. You can go into the whole Lua SDK here, and there's a lot to read here. There's a lot to cover. There's so many things that you can do. It's incredible when I started to look into this. If you go here to new inputs for dynamic controllers, also you can have all of these for dynamic physics controllers. So what this is, the controller underscore setup, this is a dynamic physics controller. So you can add all of these as dynamic physics controllers. So you can add lights, headlights, clutch, handbrake, horn, all of that. Or what I found interesting, in a newer version of CSP, you do need 0.1.77 for this to work. You're allowed to use Lewis scripts to output output values that you can use as inputs in these controllers. So that's what this is. You can have up to 7 of them, or 8, sorry. And well, I'm only using 1 here, but if you want to do something super crazy, you can have up to 7 of them going, which that is incredible. But I'll go over the script now. So here, first line, if it's AI controlled, does nothing. That's it. But I have these local values. So bags level is the value that actually is being outputted here. If you can see here, data.controller inputs 0. That's basically controller input 0 is the script underscore 0 output that is being read by the controller here. So if you want it to be on, like, I'll call them channels. If you want it to be on channel 1, then you change that to a 1, and now like it's on a different channel, and then this would be 1. But that's how that works. So bags level is the level of the bags. Right now I have it from 0 to 1,000, so you can see if it's less than 0, it won't do anything, and if it's greater than 1,000, it won't do anything. You can change this. Let's say you want to have only 0 to 100 or something like that. The reason I have it as 0 to 1,000 is because I couldn't quite figure out how to change the update, how to change how quickly the values change based on the update time. So I set it to 1,000 so it changes at a reasonable pace and not just up and down instantly. I also have this local value I is what's being iterated. So you can see here, every time it updates, when the button's being held, then it's being iterated by I. So you can change this. If you wanted to move it slower, you can put it to like 0.1, or if you want to go faster, you can iterate it by 2 or 3 or whatever you want. Here's where we get into the big meat of things. What you're gonna need, update script update. This updates when CSP updates. And the reason that it's script.update and not function like update or whatever is because script goes before regular update. It's a whole complicated mess. You really have to go into the wiki to figure this out. And the next most important thing is you're setting this local value, which is the car physics. So this is this holds all the car physics that you want to access, that you're going to need. There are other things that you can access. There's so many different things. I'm not going to cover them all right now. But this here, data.controller input 0 equals bag level. Every single time it updates, it accesses it and then sets the controller input to bags level, which is by default at 500. And then if extra A is held down, and when I say specifically, you might be thinking, oh, held down, isn't it a toggle? Well, no, actually, that's the extension file that we have here. What I defined here, extra switches, this is also a newer thing. You can define here, switch A equals bags down. These two here are just for the loading screen, so you can see what it is. But the flags are what is important. So you can see here for switch A, I set the flag to hold mode. It's a hold switch now and not a toggle. If it's a toggle, we'd have a lot of issues. But since it's a hold, it makes everything super nice. And we can stop and like press and hold it. And it goes down and let go and it stops going down. And that's exactly what we want. So that's why it's not a toggle. And that's why here, you might be thinking, why don't you do a while loop? I tried a while loop. While loops don't work because if you realize here, it's being updated. This whole thing is a while loop. Every time it's updating, it's going through here. So every time it updates and we're going through a while loop, it would never set the input. It would just be going because it would never reach this. This would be iterating, but never like refreshing the car physics. So everything's an if loop. I mean, an if gate, whatever. So if car.extra_a, there is a car that is part of the data here. Don't ask me why it's not data.extra_a, but it's car.extra_a, which is a function of data. It's a weird thing. You have to look at the wiki. That's the extra A switch that I described earlier. And if the bag level is greater than 0, so we don't want it to go to a negative number because of the lookup table that we had defined in the controller. You can see here we have the lookup table 0, 0, 1000, which is our max value, is 1500. This is the output. This is the rod length. That's our bounds here. These, if bags level is less than 1000 or greater than 0, then it'll do this. You can do an if not, doesn't matter. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying bags level is equal to bags level minus the iterator, which I talked about earlier. And then it's setting a message so you know on the top where it says bags down and then the level. That's what this is. And then it's setting the controller input to the bags level, which is passed into here. And that's the same thing. That's extra A. And it closed the loop. If it's extra B, it's the same thing except we're going up because it's a different button. So we're going to go up. Same thing. If it's less than 1000, then it'll be plus I instead of minus I. And then we have up. That's it. If you want to have different maps, you can say if on map A or if on map B. You would have to define it here. So you can define like a Boolean or something. It's all done in Lua, which is the great part because you can do so much stuff in here. That's basically it. You're done. It's super simple. I'm surprised nobody did this earlier. There are people that have done hydraulics before. Shout out to I think Lucas Mosquito and Love Train. They both did hydraulics. But other than that, I don't think anybody has covered this specific way using the extra inputs before in this manner. So that's it. Have fun. Put bags in the cars. I want to see them cars slam to their nuts. So yeah, that's it. I don't have an outro. Bye.